Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are exploring a truly fascinating historical mystery. You know, when we think of ancient East Asia, our minds usually go straight to the famous, enduring dynasties that really shape the history books. But what if I told you there was a massive, incredibly powerful empire that has been almost entirely forgotten? An empire that was so formidable, it literally nearly toppled one of the most famous dynasties in human history. Yet today, its name is barely a whisper. We're going to look closely at the source texts and historical records to piece together the rise and fall of this magnificent lost civilization.
To set the stage, we have to start by asking this question. What ancient power nearly destroyed the legendary Zhao dynasty? If you know your history, you know the Zhao dynasty is a colossal pillar of ancient Chinese civilization. I mean, they're the ones who gave us the concept of the mandate of heaven. Everyone knows them, but almost no one knows the force that absolutely terrified them. A force so powerful that the Zhao kings had to radically alter their geopolitics just to survive. The answer to that mystery is King Seo of the Seo state. He was a monumental figure, a leader who built a vast empire that commanded the respect of dozens of nations. Okay, let's dive into this, because uncovering who King Seo was, where his people came from, and how he challenged the mighty Zhou dynasty actually requires us to look at a group of ancient people who are often shrouded in myth and mystery themselves.
Section 1. The Forgotten Dongyi Hero, Unearthing the Roots of the Seo State.
To truly understand King Seo, we have to first look at his people. The sources refer to them as the Dongyi. Now, this term is often translated as the great bow-shooting people of the East. According to the text we're analyzing today, these ancient tribes are strongly associated with the ancestors of the Korean people. The sources highlight that the Dongyi were renowned across the ancient world for two major things: their exceptional martial skill, specifically with the bow, and their deep-seated benevolence. So they weren't just seen as warriors, right? They were recognized as people of high culture and virtue. And what's truly fascinating here is the sheer caliber of the names associated with this lineage. The text claim that several major historical heavyweights share this Dongyi heritage. We are talking about Qi Yu, often revered as a god of war. We have Emperor Shun, a legendary sage king of antiquity. There's Zhang Zia, the brilliant military strategist who actually helped found the Zhou dynasty. And right alongside them is King Sesian. By placing him in this lineage, the sources are really setting the stage for King Sesian's immense significance. He wasn't just some minor rebel, he was the heir to a legendary cultural and martial tradition.
Section 2. Rivaling the Zhao dynasty, the rise of an Eastern superpower.
Around 980 BCE, under the leadership of King Seowen, the Seo state rose to immense power. So the crucial point is 36. This number represents the 36 tributary states that willingly paid respects and submitted to King Seowen. This wasn't just a small tribal chiefdom. The Seo state controlled a sprawling territory spanning 500 li. By the time of King Seowen, this empire had grown so influential and culturally magnetic that 36 surrounding nations chose to align with him, rather than the established Zhou dynasty.
The Chinese texts themselves actually acknowledge the sheer dominance of the Seo state. Take a look at this remarkable quote from the Book of Later Han. The Seo forces terrified the Zhou, causing King Mu to divide eastern lords and command King Seo to rule them. The sources tell us that the Seo state pushed its influence all the way to the Yellow River. The Zhou dynasty was so overwhelmed, so terrified by this expansion, that King Mu essentially had to concede the eastern half of the known world to King Seoan, legally recognizing him as the overlord of the eastern lords just to keep the peace.
The sources highlight a really fascinating thematic contrast between these two rival powers. On one hand, you have the Zhao state. In traditional histories, the Zhao were often portrayed as the absolute pinnacle of civilization. Yet, the texts point out that to maintain their grip, they relied heavily on military force, political alliances, and secret ambushes. But then you have the Seo state, often labeled by those exact same traditional historians as barbarians. Paradoxically, the sources emphasize that King Seoyan ruled through deep benevolence, virtue, and righteousness. His power came not from the tip of a spear, but from his incredible moral authority and humane governance.
Section 3. The Egg-laying Myth, a mythological bridge to ancient Korea.
You know, ancient texts frequently blend history and myth to establish divine lineage, and King Seon's origin is absolutely no exception. The Bo Wuji, which is an ancient text of marvelous and strange records, shares this truly fascinating story. It states, a palace woman gave birth to an egg. A dog named Gokchang rescued it. The child hatched laying with his head up. According to the myth, because the egg was deemed a bad omen, it was thrown out by the water. But a remarkably loyal and apparently very warm dog named Gokchang rescued it, kept it safe, and eventually a child hatched. Because the baby was lying face up, he was given the name Eon, which literally translates to lie with the head up. And this brilliantly illustrates a vital connection made by the historians. When you look at King Seoryeon's birth myth side by side with the founding myths of ancient Korean kingdoms, the parallels are striking. Jumong, the founder of the Goguryeo kingdom, and Dongmyeong, the founder of the Buryeo kingdom, both have nearly identical egg-laying origin stories. In ancient storytelling, these aren't just random coincidences. They are powerful literary devices meant to signal a shared cultural identity. For the authors of these historical frameworks, this shared egg-laying mythological DNA is presented as primary evidence. The texts argue that this specific type of origin story is unique to the Dongyi people. Therefore, by sharing this exact mythological motif, the sources assert that the Seo state is directly linked to the Gojoseon lineage, placing King Seoryeon firmly within the ancestral tree of ancient Korea. Section 4. The Benevolent Ruler's Fall. Conflicting tales of the Seo state's defeat. So, how does a benevolent ruler who commands 36 states and terrifies the mighty Zhou dynasty suddenly lose it all? Well, the sources offer wildly conflicting explanations. Standard Chinese texts claim King Mu of Zhou secretly asked the state of Chu for a surprise military ambush, leading to the Successor state's ruin. Just one little problem. King Mu of Zhou and the King of Chu lived roughly 300 years apart. Unless they had a time machine, this coordinated attack was historically impossible. Meanwhile, Gojoseon records, like those found in the Hwangdangoji, offer a totally different story. They claim it wasn't a military ambush at all, but a diplomatic intervention by the Dangun, the ruler of Gojoseon, who stepped in to prevent a civil war among different Dongyi factions. But regardless of the exact political maneuverings, the sources agree on the tragic, peaceful nature of his defeat. When faced with the prospect of a devastating war, King Seon's extreme benevolence actually became his political undoing. Unwilling to shed his people's blood, he simply refused to fight back. Instead of launching a counterattack that would have resulted in massive casualties, he chose to abandon his throne, retreating to Mount Susan accompanied by 10,000 fiercely loyal followers. He would rather lose his kingdom than start a bloody war. That is a pretty stark contrast to almost every other ancient ruler we learn about, wouldn't you say? Section 5. Legacy of the Seo state, an empire erased from the maps. How does an empire of this scale, led by such a virtuous and powerful figure, just fade into obscurity? Let's move to the timeline and see how this builds, because it's vital to understand this wasn't just a brief, fiery rebellion, it was an enduring civilization. According to the text, it was founded way back in 1236 BCE by Gojoseon's Dangun Aho. It reached its absolute peak geopolitical power around 980 BCE under King Seon. And even after his tragic retreat, the state survived in various forms until its ultimate fall and absorption by the Wu state in 512 BCE. That is an incredible 725-year history. Despite lasting over 7 centuries, if you look at Chinese historical maps from this period, the Huai and Sai River regions, the absolute heartland of the South State, are often left entirely blank. Imagine looking at a map today and a massive country is just missing. The texts argue that mainstream narratives intentionally erased these independent Dongyi states from the map. Why? Because acknowledging a massive, powerful, and benevolent rival empire in the East would completely threaten the traditional Zhou-centric worldview that later historians wanted to uphold. Which leaves us with a profound question to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. If an empire lasting 7 centuries, one that commanded 36 states and was led by a hero renowned for his virtue, can be quite literally erased from the maps, how much of history is truly just written by the victors? And more importantly, what other incredible heroes like King Seoryeon are still out there, just waiting to be uncovered from the lost pages of time? Keep questioning the maps, keep digging into the sources, and thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the Forgotten Seo state.